On that sweltering summer morning in Ohio, Lisa just wanted to fill her cardboard cart, not bump into a grease-covered man with green eyes who, unknowingly, would forever change the course of her story. And certainly not lose the wallet that carried her last coins of hope. Since everything collapsed, company, house, marriage, Lisa Thompson felt like the very cardboard she dragged through the streets, crumpled, discarded, forgotten. At 33, divorced, former partner of a business that made headlines for tax evasion, Lisa now wore worn sneakers and carried recycling bags with the dignity of someone who promised herself, "I will rise again." It was summer in Ohio, 2017, and the heat seemed to mock her persistence. As on every day, Lisa followed her usual route. But when she turned the corner where she usually found boxes and newspapers in abundance, something blocked her path. A broken-down car was blocking her way. Beside it, a man covered in grease was desperately trying to fix it. "So the mechanic thinks this is a garage," she snapped, exhausted and irritated. He looked up, confused, his oil-stained fingers still holding a wrench. "I can't move it from here. The car broke down and my phone is dead," he tried to explain. "Great. Another problem in my life. How wonderful," she grumbled, crossing to the other side of the sidewalk. In her anger, Lisa didn't notice when her wallet fell from her apron pocket. Logan, still kneeling beside the car, tried to call out to her, but she was already walking away hurriedly. He sighed, muttered something about the day being in a bad mood indeed, and returned to wrestling with the engine. After 20 more minutes of sweating, getting even dirtier, and nearly losing his patience, the engine finally roared to life, as if admitting defeat. Logan leaned back in his seat, exhausted but victorious. He went home wanting nothing more than a cold shower and silence. But before he could step into the shower, something fell from the pocket of his dirty pants. Lisa's wallet. Inside, some loose change, an ID with blue eyes like winter sky, and a simple card. "Lisa Thompson. I collect recyclable materials. Call now. 5559799. Logan hesitated but called. On the other end, a sharp voice answered. "Hello. Hi. This is Logan. The guy with a broken car. I think you dropped your wallet. I know who you are. The mechanic," she replied curtly. Logan smiled. For some reason, that response was the funniest thing about his day. They met at a modest diner downtown. When he offered to pay for her lunch, Lisa refused. "We're both poor souls, each pays their own." They lunched between ironies and discreet smiles. Logan mentioned he had some old materials in the basement that she might be able to use. She agreed to go get them. There, while Lisa sorted through the boxes, Logan watched her. The firm way she walked, her hair tied back, her strong voice. She was much more than a scavenger. "Why do you do this?" "Garbage collector." "What's garbage to you is what keeps me alive," she replied. "I had a company. My ex-husband embezzled money, left debts. I lost everything. I'm trying to breathe again." Logan felt a knot in his throat. This woman was a fire that life tried to extinguish, but that still burned. When she asked what he did for work, Logan hesitated. It wasn't just fear of judgment. It was fear of ruining that real, raw connection. So he lied. I'm a driver for the homeowner. He lets me stay in the basement." Lisa nodded. She didn't judge. Everyone had their winding paths. From that Saturday on, Lisa began walking more slowly in front of the house. And Logan, now always clean and ready, waited. One day he called her to have iced tea on the porch. They sat, talked about everything, fears, failures, losses. And there something bloomed. The dinner invitation came with nervousness. They went to a small Italian cantina, where the aroma of basil and baked bread was almost as enveloping as Lisa's presence. She wore a red dress, one of the few that remained from her old life. Hair loose, eyes shining. Logan felt his heart beating out of rhythm. She wasn't just strong, she was beautiful in a breathtaking way. They talked about dreams, about how hard it was to trust after so many falls. Logan, once again, hesitated to tell his truth. She deserved to know, but fear spoke louder. And it was on an ordinary afternoon, walking through downtown, that Lisa saw something that stopped her in her tracks. A woman came out of a store holding a Fresh Start cup. And the face next to the logo was him. Logan. Featured on a billboard. Logan Green, founder of Fresh Start, the natural juice empire. Crying, she ran to the company headquarters. There he was, behind a rustic wooden desk, stunned before her. "You thought I would approach you because of your money?" she asked through tears, her heart in pieces. Logan tried to explain, but words no longer reached her. Left. Disappeared. 2 whole months passed. And every Saturday he waited on the porch. But she never returned. Chapter 2. The Wait and the Return. Logan was never good at waiting. But there he was, every Saturday morning, with 2 glasses of iced tea on the porch table and his heart in tatters. The sun rose and set. Neighbors commented on his strange routine. The mechanic now in a dress shirt with a lost look, but he didn't care. He waited. Lisa, meanwhile, relearned to survive. She returned to her route, but avoided Logan's street as if it were mined territory. Her dignity, rebuilt with each box and newspaper she collected, was now in ruins. Another one who lied. She whispered to herself like a tired mantra. And yet, every time she saw a Fresh Start juice cup in the trash, something inside her burned. One afternoon, passing through the rich neighborhood where recyclables were always more generous, Lisa heard children's voices. They were in a park, next to a launch event for a new Fresh Start flavor. She stopped. The stand was decorated with tropical fruits, and a banner caught attention. Lisa Line, the taste of overcoming. Name. Displayed. The world spun for a second. Behind the counter, a kind, elderly woman offered her a cup. "It's the new favorite. Made with a recipe inspired by an incredible woman," she said, smiling. Lisa tasted it. Mango, mint, and lemon. The combination she used to make when she lived with her mother. She walked away before she cried. But the gesture marked her. That same week, she met Logan's brother on the street. By coincidence or not, he recognized her and struck up a conversation. And that's how she learned. Logan had reformulated the entire company product line inspired by her. And more, since she'd been gone. He donated part of the profits to reintegration projects for women who had lost everything like her. Lisa didn't know if this changed what he had done, But she knew at that moment that he hadn't used her. He had heard her. The next morning, she decided to go to the park where she used to spend hours collecting cardboard. She sat on the bench, alone, closed her eyes, breathed. "I knew that one day you'd stop running," said a familiar voice. Lisa turned slowly. It was him. Without a dress shirt, without pose. Just Logan. With a cup of tea and a look that asked for forgiveness. She didn't respond. He sat beside her. "I lied. 'Cause I was afraid of losing you. And I ended up losing you anyway." She didn't look at him. But she didn't leave. And that was already a lot. Since that day, I only think about one thing. How does a woman who collects garbage manage to collect my entire heart without asking for anything in return? Lisa laughed finally. A laugh half bitter, half sweet. "Yeah, Logan. I'm good at finding treasures in the middle of what others throw away. And I'm an idiot for almost throwing away the greatest of all." Silence. Then she spoke, looking at the sky. "Why did you use me as the name of the line? For marketing. Because you saved me. And I wanted other people to feel that. Even without knowing who you are." Lisa closed her eyes. When she opened them, tears were flowing. But there was peace in them. Chapter 3: Rebuilding Trust. The meetings returned. Discreet. Careful. Like someone stepping on glass shards, trying not to bleed again. One day, Logan took Lisa to a community center he had started financing. There, women with stories similar to hers sewed, made artisanal soap, learned finances. He introduced her as the reason all this exists. She cried again, but this time with gratitude. Months passed. The relationship rebuilt itself, stronger. Lisa was now a partner in a product line, logistics coordinator for Fresh Start, and a speaker at overcoming events. The media began looking for her. But she only said, "I was cardboard. Today I'm raw material." On a rainy night, Logan took her to the old basement, the same one where she met him. Renovated with a bookshelf, plants, paintings, and an improvised altar with 2 glasses. "This is where it all began," he said. "This is where you entered, sweaty, angry, full of attitude, and turned my life upside down." She looked around, moved. "And today." He knelt, taking a small box. "I want to do this right. No lies. No disguises. Just the 2 of us. Logan. Lisa Thompson. Will you marry me?" She didn't respond immediately. He knew her well enough to know. That was a yes being built inside. "But this time we start from scratch," she said. "No Paris. No tower. Just us, the street where it all began, and maybe iced tea on the porch." "Deal." He said yes. But the wedding hadn't come yet. They decided that first they wanted to build something bigger. And that something was about to be born. If this story is touching your heart, subscribe to the channel now and activate the bell. Do you believe in new beginnings? Leave in the comments. What story would you like to see here on the channel? A lost love, a revealed secret, or an impressive life turnaround? Chapter 4. Building an Empire of Hearts. The Ohio heat seemed even more intense that summer. But it wasn't just the sun that set Lisa's days on fire. It was the combustion of a new time, a new identity, a life she never would have imagined 6 months ago, when she pushed her rusty cart through the city. Lisa now woke up early not to collect cardboard, but to manage operations, solve logistics, guide other women like her, and still have meetings with suppliers who never dreamed that this woman with firm speech and storm eyes had once had hands dirty with newspaper ink and sweat. Logan, on the other hand, continued to be a man who liked to observe in silence. He watched Lisa's transformation like someone watching the sun rise over ashes. It wasn't just passion, it was respect, pure admiration. They didn't talk much about the marriage proposal. Stayed there like a seed, kept in the pocket of promise, waiting for the right time to bloom. Lisa asked them to wait. "I want to marry myself first, Logan. Before marrying you," she said, certain. "I want to love myself whole, not in pieces mended by what I lived." And he understood. But in that time, what was born between them was more than love. It was an empire. It started with expanding the Lisa line. Natural supplements, functional foods, detox juices, wellness kits. But Lisa insisted. No selling miracles. The brand would have purpose, not promises. And thus, the idea that would change everything was born. "Let's create a production chain with women like me," she said one night, sitting on the porch, barefoot with a cup of tea in her hands. "Women who lost everything. We'll teach, employ, give dignity." Logan smiled. "You want to turn trash into gold." "No, Logan. I want to turn pain into power." They created the Root Project, a production line with women from shelters, rehabilitation centers, and vulnerable situations. Everything was handmade with technical supervision. The labels came with a small story of who packaged the product. And when buying, customers could see the direct impact they caused. The company exploded. Newspaper reports, podcast interviews, TEDx invitations. Lisa became a symbol. But she never stopped being who she was. She still walked the streets to observe recyclers, talked with women in shelter lines, and, something no one expected, still had the habit of collecting cardboard on Saturday mornings. "Why do you still do this?" Logan asked once. She smiled. "To remember where I came from, and to know where else I can go. But every ascension charges a price." With visibility came challenges. A competitor began spreading that Lisa was a fraud, that she had never been a collector, that all of this was pain marketing. They assembled a dossier, edited videos, hired people to discredit her. Lisa remained silent for weeks. It was as if a shadow descended upon her. Logan tried to protect her. He wanted to pick a fight, call lawyers, make a statement. But she didn't want to. "I don't need to prove anything. Whoever wants to know my story can walk with me for a day." And that's what she did. In a documentary filmed by a small independent production company, Lisa returned to the streets, showed the scars on her fingers, old notebooks where she noted collection points, bankruptcy and eviction records. She spoke of hunger, a cold, of dignity, without drama, with firmness. The video went viral. Not only did it debunk the rumors but elevated her image even more. But Logan, who saw all this from the inside, noticed the exhaustion. "Lisa, you're forgetting to live." She looked at him among papers, projects, contracts. "And what is living? It's letting someone take care of you too." She lowered her eyes, sighed. For the first time, she didn't know what to answer. A few weeks later, in a meeting with investors, Lisa fainted. The diagnosis came like thunder in a clear sky. Extreme exhaustion, early functional depression, severe nutritional deficiency. She was burning from the inside. Logan made a decision. He canceled her schedule for a month. Took her to a remote country house, where the loudest sound was birdsong. No cell phone. No meetings. I'm not made to stop, Logan. Then just change the rhythm. You don't need to stop. Just dance slower. It was in that retreat that she understood. She was trying to prove to the whole world that she deserved to be there. But she already was. And it was there, sitting on the wooden porch, wrapped in an old blanket, that she said, "Logan, maybe Paris isn't so exaggerated after all." He looked at her with a mischievous gleam in his eyes. "So you're saying we can get married?" "I'm saying maybe we're already married and didn't realize it." "I want Paris. I want the tower. I want everything. Then that's it." She smiled. "There's just one condition." "What?" "That we never forget where we came from. Even if we go to the top of the world, may our feet always touch the ground of the street where it all began." He nodded. And the next day he began planning. Chapter 5. Seeds of Change. The invitation arrived by mail. A simple envelope with a handwritten phrase. "We met among cardboards, but our story deserves candlelight. Paris awaits us. Bring only the essential, your whole heart." And so, Paris would not just be the setting for a wedding. It would be the seal of a pact between two souls who, mended by pain, sewed together an empire of truth, sweat, and love. Lisa was no longer just the woman who pulled a cart through the streets of Ohio. And Logan, though still CEO of Fresh Start, no longer saw himself as the invincible businessman, owner of a brand, but as a man who, for the first time, was planting something that really mattered. Roots was more than a name. It was a manifesto. The organization's headquarters grew slowly, like a patient tree. It was installed in an old renovated warehouse in the heart of a neighborhood forgotten by the city, but alive with stories. Inside, the constant sound of sewing machines, laughter, hurried steps, and children running transformed concrete into promise. Lisa was the soul of the place. Not a day passed without some woman, shy, distrustful, knocking on the door. And she received them with a smile and hot tea, as if she were opening not just a center, but her own home. The stories came in waves. Abandonment, abuse, bankruptcy, addiction. And Lisa listened to each one like someone collecting treasures in the trash. Logan, in turn, offered what he had: structure, contacts, investment. But without invading the space. He understood that in that territory leadership was feminine. It was silent, intuitive, powerful. And he had learned, with Lisa, that sometimes the greatest strength lies in not occupying center stage. But the world outside wasn't always ready for the revolution that Lisa represented. That afternoon, she went out to a meeting with City Hall. She would present the urban garden expansion project for peripheral neighborhoods. She wore a simple white blouse, dark jeans, and a necklace with a silver leaf, a gift from Logan. He always said, "You are the root, but you are also the wind." The meeting started tense. One of the secretaries, a middle-aged man with an arrogant look, questioned the data. "Are you sure these women are capable of handling a project of this magnitude?" he said, with a cynical smile. "Don't get me wrong, but former street dwellers don't usually have a good track record of commitment." Lisa took a deep breath. When someone goes through cold, hunger, and fear long enough, they learn what commitment to life is. And whoever knows rock bottom knows more about reconstruction than any gentleman in a suit and tie sitting at a meeting table. There was silence, and then discreet applause. Not from the table, but from two interns at the back of the room. Outside, Logan waited for her in the car. She got in with teary eyes but firm. "How did it go?" he asked. It was like planting sunflowers on asphalt, but at least a crack opened. He took her hand and kissed it. In silence, in respect. In the months that followed, Roots gained a second headquarters, then a third. Partnerships emerged. Universities sent volunteers. The UN requested an interview. But Lisa continued there every morning, serving tea and listening to stories. And it was on one of those mornings that everything began to change again. Amanda, one of the women from the house, entered Lisa's room, pale. She had found a baby at the entrance to the headquarters. A newborn wrapped in a blue blanket with a note. "Take care of him." "I can't." Lisa took the child in her arms and felt the world stop for a few seconds. He was sleeping, so small, so oblivious to the harshness of his first abandonment. They called the police, activated social services. But while authorities decided the baby's fate, Lisa baptized him Benjamin. Logan arrived shortly after. "Lisa, are you okay?" She just shook her head and handed Benjamin to him. Logan held the boy carefully, like someone touching a star. "This is what Roots does, Logan. It welcomes even what the world discards without blinking, even when no one wants to see, even when no one wants to care." That night Lisa didn't sleep. She thought about the child. She thought about how life comes full circle, how she herself had been discarded so many times. The next day she called social services. "I want to register Benjamin's adoption." It was a lengthy process but authorized. Logan supported her. The house mobilized. The women in shifts helped with care. Benjamin became a symbol of something greater. That all of them there, including Lisa, were finally creating roots not just in the earth, but in affections. Meanwhile, Fresh Start grew. Logan implemented new production lines based on 100% recyclable packaging. He created campaigns with the stories of Roots women, without exploiting, just showing dignity. Profits skyrocketed. But for him, the greatest prize was another. Arriving home to find Lisa sitting on the sofa, Benjamin sleeping in her lap, and her reading a book on feminine psychology. "You know what fascinates me most," she said once. "It's how, even after everything, we still allow ourselves to love. As if the heart had 7 lives." Logan approached and kissed her forehead. "And each life is worth it when lived with you. But every calm precedes the storm." During a visit to Roots headquarters number 3, Lisa received a complaint. One of the coordinators was embezzling resources. Lisa, as always, wanted to investigate everything with ethics and care. But the media found out first. Headlines read, "Recycler organization involved in corruption scandal." The blow was hard. Roots' image, until then immaculate, was dragged through the mud. Investigations began. Lisa was called to testify. Logan tried to shield her, offered lawyers, but she refused. "I wasn't the one who made the mistake. But I'm responsible for everything that carries my name." At the hearing with the press around, Lisa faced malicious questions, judgmental looks. "You, who already had problems with justice in your old business, think you have the moral authority to lead a social project?" She took a deep breath. "I believe no one is born ready. But everyone is born with value, including me. And if my past is used as an argument to delegitimize me, then let them use it. Because it's proof that it's possible to change. And to change lives around us too." The video went viral. The internet was divided. But something unusual happened. A wave of women who had passed through Roots began posting their testimonies. "It was she who got me off the street. Thanks to Lisa, I learned to sew, and today I have my store. She looked me in the eyes when no one else would." Tide turned. After the storm came reconstruction. And with it, new ideas. Logan proposed something ambitious. Create a fresh start food line signed by Roots women. Recipes developed by them. Production made by them. Shared profit. Lisa hesitated, but accepted the name. Women of Root. The first batch sold out in days. Absolute success. During the launch, Logan spoke. The world is full of people who can only see the tops of trees. But it's the roots that sustain everything. Today we celebrate these women. Because it's in them that life begins. And begins again. Lisa, backstage, held Benjamin in her lap. The boy was already walking and sometimes called her Mama Tree. She smiled. She had never imagined that the love of her life would be a combination of cardboard cart, wrinkled suit, and a baby left at the door. That late afternoon, on the porch of the simple house where they now lived, Logan arrived with a blue envelope. Another trip? Lisa asked, suspicious. No. It's a deed. She opened it. You bought the lot next door? Yes. We're going to plant something there. Forest. Fruit trees. With the name of each woman who passed through Roots. She looked at him, moved. This is much more than I could dream. He pulled her into a hug. And yet, it's just the beginning. In the back of the garden, Benjamin played with a cardboard cart, smiling. Lisa looked at the sky. It was clear, blue like her eyes, strong like her story. This woman, who was once called trash, was now root, was tree, was shade, was fruit. And Logan learned that true success is planting something that lasts longer than you. Epilogue. The Garden of Love. Lisa always thought that true love didn't come with fireworks, but with shared silence, with coffee divided in half, with presence that doesn't demand words. And that was exactly what Logan had become. A comfortable silence, like the late afternoon that comes slowly and envelopes us without asking permission. In Paris, between old bridges and new dreams, Lisa discovered that loving could be as simple as breathing, as long as there was space for the soul to stretch. And Logan, without invading, just opened the windows and stayed beside her, letting her choose the view. Upon returning to the United States, the two no longer needed labels. They were project, they were partnership, they were a bridge to each other. And Roots, now with 3 branches, became more than a support center. It was a movement. Women who once slept under viaducts now spoke in packed auditoriums, teaching others to rebuild their own names. And Lisa, who had lost so much in life, finally found a place where she was called not out of pity, but out of respect. And that was worth more than any illuminated stage. Logan, in turn, seemed to have found his center. The man of strategies, of campaigns, was now also the man of small things. The note in the closet, the handmade bread, the care not to be shadow, but always indirect light, the kind that illuminates without blinding. On a particularly tiring night, Lisa came home and found on the bed an envelope with a pencil drawing. It was her, wearing the Roots lab coat, surrounded by small flowers, each flower with the name of a woman who had passed through the project. On the back he wrote, "You don't just change stories. You plant them, harvest them, and write them in perfume." She took time to respond, but kept the paper like someone keeping a reliquary. Not for the paper, but for the gesture. And she began too to leave small signs. A mug with a message, a post-it with a verse, a playlist created just for him. It was as if love was now a secret code that both knew. A language made of looks, touches, and pauses. A rainy Saturday brought a new invitation. Logan called her to visit a house away from the city, old, with large windows and ivy-covered walls. He wanted to transform it into a rural training school, so that Roots women would have a place to learn to produce, plant, build. Lisa walked through the rooms with teary eyes. For the first time, she imagined a home that didn't need to be just hers. When they reached the kitchen, he said, "This is the place where I imagine you laughing with flour-dirty hands, teaching girls to make bread and believe that they too can be yeast in the world." The image stayed with her for days, like an invisible painting that always returned when she closed her eyes. On one of those solitary afternoons, she received an envelope without a return address. Inside, a handwritten letter from a 12-year-old girl, daughter of a recycler who had gotten a job thanks to the horticulture course. The letter said, "My mom taught me to wash my hair again. She said now we can buy shampoo. She said it was you who taught her to look in the mirror without shame." Lisa broke down. The next day, she found Logan sitting on the Roots porch, playing an old out-of-tune guitar. She sat beside him, rested her head on his shoulder and said, "Do you still want to walk with me, even when I'm too tired to walk?" He responded with a kiss on the top of her forehead. "Then we'll sit. And when you want to walk again, I'll follow behind carrying your backpack." She smiled. For the first time, without defenses, without layers, without games. That night was made of laughter and unspoken promises, because there was between them an alliance deeper than any ring, to see each other completely and still choose to stay. The next day, she appeared with a handwritten t-shirt. "Strong roots don't fear the storm." He responded with another, "And trees that love each other grow intertwined." Since then, every Friday is Mint and Decision Day. They sit in the center's garden, drink tea and plan the world. And the world, curious, begins to listen. Before diving into the final chapter of this story that touched so many hearts, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications. Here, each story is a seed of hope planted in fertile soil. And comment below. What was the moment when you realized you had found true love? Let's create a garden of stories together. Summer brought with it not just sun but also flowering. Roots was now cited in international magazines as an exemplary initiative of social transformation with female protagonism. Lisa, who always avoided the spotlight, found herself invited to participate in conferences, seminars, interviews. But it was in one of these interviews on a local channel that something unexpected happened. The journalist, curious, asked, "Lisa, what have you learned most in these recent years?" She took a deep breath, looked at the camera with the serenity of someone who no longer carries fear of the past. That dignity isn't given. It's cultivated. And that loving someone is like caring for a garden. You need to know the other person's timing. Know that there are dry days, pruning days, and even when it seems everything died. Just one right drop is enough for everything to bloom again. Across town, Logan watched in silence. Her face on the screen was the same he saw every morning, but hearing her truth live, unfiltered, made something inside him rearrange. As if the last piece of a puzzle had finally found its place. But peace doesn't last forever. On a stuffy September morning, Lisa received a call from Ethan. His voice came trembling, accelerated. "Lisa, the factory. There was an accident. Gas leak in one of the rural training units. There are injured." She dropped everything. They were hours of desperation. 3 collaborators were hospitalized. One of them, Anna Julia, a young woman Lisa had welcomed since she was 17, was in serious condition. Logan also ran to the scene. He was pale, disheveled, almost unrecognizable. When he saw her, he ran to meet her. "Lisa, I'm so sorry. I should have reviewed the piping project. I should have foreseen. It's not time for blame. It's time for presence," she replied, firm but with teary eyes. They stayed together that night at the hospital, waiting for news. When the doctor finally came out of the ICU and said that Anna Julia was stable, Lisa collapsed in his arms. It was the first time in a long time that she cried without shame. The accident changed everything. Lisa, despite the pain, decided to transform tragedy into seed. She launched a new project, Scars That Speak, a support and accident prevention network in informal training centers. Documentaries, training, public policies. But there was an emotional cost. Logan, consumed by guilt, withdrew. He began sleeping at the office, avoided events, refused interviews. He felt like an imposter, someone who had failed those he loved most. Lisa noticed, and for the first time made the decision not to chase him. She knew that love isn't dragging, it's offering. And sometimes, those we love need to get a little lost to find themselves again. 2 months passed. Until on a rainy Saturday, like those that marked the beginnings and new beginnings of this story, Lisa arrived at the Roots Center and found an envelope on her desk. In it, just a note. "If love is root, then it's in the earth that it's reborn. Come back to the place where we planted together." She knew exactly where it was. It was that rural house with large windows, where they had dreamed of the training school. When she arrived, it was already night. The lights were on. Logan was on the porch, with the out-of-tune guitar in his lap. "I thought you wouldn't come," he said without lifting his eyes. "I thought about not coming. But the rain convinced me. You always listen to the sky better than to me." She approached, sat beside him. "Why did you call me here?" Logan took his time. Finally, he took an envelope from his pocket. It was a technical report, signed by him, attesting that the error in the factory project had been his. "I resigned from the CEO position. I'm going to take responsibility. The foundation is now yours. Entirely. Without me as a leadership figure." Lisa's eyes widened. She tried to speak, but he interrupted her. "I needed to stop being the tree that gave you shade. Now I want to be soil. If you want me to." She held the paper, tore it in half, then in half again, and threw the pieces in the lit fireplace inside the house. "Don't ask me to forgive you anymore. It's not about forgiveness anymore. It's about presence. About planting together and not running at the first drought." He looked at her. And there, without promises, without papers, without alliances, something sacred was established. Months passed. Lisa got pregnant. The news came on an afternoon when she was picking mint with a group of New Roots residents. Upon feeling nauseous and going to the medical post, she returned with the most open smile she had ever shown. Logan fainted upon receiving the news. Literally. But what came after wasn't just joy. Lisa had a delicate pregnancy. She needed to rest. The Roots team took over everything with mastery. After all, she had formed leaders, not followers. And Logan, finally, learned to care for time and silence with humility. Every morning, he read psalms aloud to her belly, like someone declaring promises in fertile soil. May this boy be like David, artist, brave and after God's heart, he would say. Or like Moses, a liberator. Or like Joseph, a faithful dreamer, Lisa would respond with a gleam in her eyes. And Elias was born, strong crybaby, full of hair. With him a new phase was also born. Now Lisa and Logan were no longer just cause partners. They were family. Not in the perfect model, but in the true model, the one that cries together, that loses, that starts over. One night, with Elias asleep, sitting by the edge of the garden illuminated by lanterns, Logan said, "We could get married. Make it official. Just for legal security. You know, pension, school, those things." Lisa laughed. "Are you proposing to me because of Elias's school?" "No. I'm asking because I finally understood that love is a daily sacrament, but sometimes the world needs paperwork to respect what we already know is eternal." She looked up at the sky, smiled, and replied, "Then let it be in the countryside, barefoot, with a promise that we'll keep choosing each other, even when passion turns to silence. Because love, Logan, is what we plant in the dark, hoping for flowers in their own time."